Hi guys, Kaza here, welcome back. We're back with some more Hakuoki with Hijikata as our main guy. Hopefully he'll fall for us and love us. I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, yeah, so we're about to start it. We're gonna have the little animation playing in the beginning. But we're gonna do this. We're gonna finish 1.3. So let's get going, guys. July 1864. It was later that day that Hijikata called for me. Excuse me. I had been relieved to find that Okita and Heisuke had been summoned along with me. A private conversation with only myself and Hijikata would have been cause for a significant case of nerves. I was still trying to puzzle out what to say when Hijikata began to speak, his voice cold as tempered steel. There's one grouchy face. Well, let me think. We originally got here in January and we're now in July? Dang, I wasn't allowed out at all. You can leave the compound. Really? His announcement was so sudden I found I couldn't contain my enthusiasm. Hijikata, however, retained his composure. You're going to be accompanying whoever's on duty. You jump when they say jump, and die when they say die. Are we clear? Yes, sir. At last, I would be able to go outside. I would finally be able to begin searching for my father. My answers wouldn't show themselves immediately, I knew. But at least I was free to look for them. Souji, Heisuke. Souji, Heisuke. You're on patrol today, right? Oh, I get it now. That's why you pulled us in here, right? The confusion that had been on his face since I had entered lifted at last. I'm still kind of confused. I think it's going to be Soji's turn this time, though. Well, the first division's doing routes today, isn't it? Yes, Heisuke and the 8th are going out tonight, so I think he has a point. She'll be safer during the afternoon. He nodded at Heisuke and gave me a quick wink. Don't forget, if you run, I'll kill you. And if we get jumped by Ronin, I'm not sticking around to pull your ass out of the fire, okay? Oh, he's a bundle of joy. He wasn't being serious, but Hijikata turned his cold glare on Okita and frowned. No, it's not okay, you idiot. Why the hell do you think I'm sending her with you? Okita's only response was a short snort of laugh. I won't run. I knew he wasn't being serious, but I couldn't stand to keep my mouth shut. When I came here, we made a deal. I promised. Shinsengumi would help me find my father, and I would keep quiet and not run away. And I still wanted to find him, just as much as I had the day I first met the Shinsengumi. Out of curiosity, did you ever think of going to go see that doctor? I mean, she came here originally. What happened to my house? I just left it. Came here and I've been gone for months. Dear goodness. I'll keep my promise. So please, keep yours. I gave Okita a short bow, never taking my eyes off his face. The smirk that had been on his face when I had begun had shrunk to something smaller and more than a little awkward. I apologize. I guess I underestimated you. You should realize, though, that there's no way to know what could happen out there. If you come with us, you're putting yourself in danger. If that's alright with you, then feel free to join us on our rounds. Even I knew Kyoto was not safe. But I didn't care. I had to find my father. At that moment, any possible danger seemed immaterial.
長州の連中が不穏な動きを見せている。本来ならお前を外に出せる時期じゃない。
The Choshu have been acting up. We don't know what they're up to, but chances are it's bad for us. I'd rather not be sending you out. Choshu? Domain governed by Takachikamori in opposition to Mayo. Most members of this domain are nationalistic imperialists during the early part of the Bakumatsu period and the later attempt more directly to overthrow the shogunate. Oh, okay. Sounds fun. He seemed to be almost talking to himself, but his tone was stern and thoughtful. The soldiers of the Chonsun domain were part of the Imperial Nationalist Party. They had increasingly returned to force in their pursuit of these goals. The Shinsengumi, on the other hand, were loyal to the shogun. Since their masters were at odds, the Shinsengumi and the Chonsun domain were enemies. It occurred to me that the increasing activity of the Chonsun domain had likely made it difficult for the Shinsengumi to shoulder such burdens such as me. Oh, I was waiting for him to talk. My bad. Why are you giving me permission to leave the compound at a time like this, then? Hijikata's face hardened, and he looked away.
江戸の家にも帰ってねえらしいし、今日の街中で高堂さんらしい人物を見たっていう証言も上がっている。
Kyoto hasn't gone back to Edo, and we've heard that a couple people saw someone around Kyoto. It might not be him, but it matches his description.
それに半年近くも辛抱させたしな。機会を見送り続けたんじゃ、高堂さん探しもこのまま進まねえだろ。
Besides, I've kept you locked up for almost half a year. The Chosu are a threat, but if it wasn't them, it'd be something else. I have to let you out sometime, or you'll never find anything. Okay. I wasn't sure what I expected to hear from him. He was right that they would postpone my search for my father for quite some time. What I hadn't expected was that he would give any thought to my feelings on the matter. Thank you very much. I bowed as I spoke, not sure what else I could do to express my gratitude. Hijikata only turned back to his work.
それに今は腹を壊してる大使も多いしな。俺らも万全の状態じゃないし。
Besides, plenty of our guys aren't feeling so hot these days. We aren't exactly in top condition, are we? Heisuke's joking didn't seem to appeal to Hijikata, who only frowned more deeply. Stop it, you're digging a grave, people. He might change his mind. Don't do this to me. Well, it has been awfully hot lately. It certainly had been, day after day. The sun burned on Kyoto from a cloudless sky, and all the rooms in the compound were so humid that I felt dizzy as soon as I stepped inside. I had heard the heat had been too much for some of the Shinsengumi soldiers and had taken ill.
とにかく俺は許可を出してやる。行くか行かないかはお前が好きに判断しろ。
If you want to go, you can go. You have my permission. All right. I sat there for a moment and considered my options. There was something in his words and demeanor that told me he didn't want me to leave the compound. Still, if I was with Okita or Heisuke, I had no doubt that I'd be safe and well protected. On the other hand, the presence could easily be an undue burden to them. What was I to do? Leave and search for my father. Well, it doesn't sound like it's exactly safe yet. Yeah, it doesn't seem exactly safe. I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer. Or at least until a good chunk of the men are sick. That probably would be a better option. So I'm gonna remain in the compound. In the end, I decided not to leave. They had enough on their minds without having to worry about me. I'll stay locked up forever with Hijikata. Yay! Still, I couldn't keep myself from feeling a little sad about it. I gave my head a shake. Alright, what should I do today? For the past 6 months, I'd done little more than run inconsequential errands for the Shinsengumi. I also helped clean the compound and prepare meals, and eventually I'd learned how best to help without getting in the way. Most of my time was spent with the captains, but on the occasion where I'd bump into the rank-and-file soldiers, I got to a point where I could speak to them easily enough, probably because they thought I was just a page. My desire to find my father had kept me from trying to run away. I think they're finally starting to trust me. At least, I hope they have. Some of them still weren't terribly nice to me, like Okita, but by and large, they had begun to give me a little more freedom. Okita doesn't like me? I thought he just likes teasing me. It didn't really occur to me that he didn't like me. Maybe she doesn't see it like that. I don't know. To me, it's just he likes teasing and messing with me. It sure was hot. What should I do today? My mind was completely blank. It was too hot to think. Of course! I'd go to the central courtyard. Where else would I go in this big place? With nothing else to do. If I can hit the button. There was usually a breeze there, and if I stayed in the shade, it would probably be quite cool. Courtyard! My hopes and dreams of a comfortable afternoon are shattered. There's no wind! The sun's heat was unrelenting. Normally a nice cool breeze would have given me a chance to feel comfortable, but I had a feeling it was going to be a bad day. Shade was the best I could hope for, it seemed. I sighed and sat down in the deepest shade I could find. As I watched the sun roast Kyoto, something occurred to me. Oh, right. My father's been here, hasn't he? They told me as much, but they hadn't told me why. Had he been tending to the injured, or perhaps educating Shinsengumi on how to avoid illness? No, that didn't sound like him. He'd only visited a few times, or so I'd been told. If he'd really been the Shinsengumi's doctor, then he would have visited far more often. Which left me with the question, why? What? It had already been made clear to me that the Shinsengumi had plenty of secrets that I wasn't meant to know. I had a feeling that whatever my father had been up to, it had already been made clear to me that the Shinsengumi had plenty of secrets that I wasn't meant to know. I had a feeling that whatever my father had been up to, it had something to do with those secrets. No, that can't be right. Can it? I shook my head again, trying my best to dispel the dark thoughts taking shape there.
何がまさかなんですか?
I don't know whose voice this is. What can't be right? Oh, hi. I spun around to find out the Sanan had walked up behind me, utterly undetected and unannounced. Oh, Sanan, is it all right for you to be walking around?
私が寝たきりの病人か何かのような言い方はよしてください。何の問題もありませんよ。
Please, I'm no bedridden invalid. Please, I'm no bedridden invalid. There's nothing wrong with me. When he spoke, there was a hint of coldness to his words. My bad.
もっとも、左腕は寝たきりですがね。
Although, I suppose my left hand is something of an invalid. I couldn't bear to look at the sad, twisted smile he gave me. His arm hadn't healed, and it seemed certain now that it never would. The rest of the captain seemed sure he'd never be able to use his arm as he had done before.
君こそ部屋を出ていていいんですか? 豚舎内を勝手に動き回られては困ります。
What are you doing? Are you allowed out of your room? You haven't been given the run of headquarters, I'm sure. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. They usually let me walk around as I please, as long as I technically didn't go into anyone's room. But I knew that, technically, I was still confined to my quarters. Whatever freedom I had was out of kindness, nothing more. In other words, Sanan was right. If he decided to chastise me for being in the courtyard, I had no reasonable response. There were some things I wanted to think about. I hoped the courtyard would be cooler than my room. But when the words came out of my mouth, I realized it sounded The moment the words were out of my mouth, I realized they sounded far more like childish excuses than any sort of real explanation.
我々の監視から逃れて考え事とはまるで後ろめたいことでもあるみたいだ。
When you sneak around without permission, it makes it seem as if you have something to hide. I could say the same for you guys. I'm sorry. My explanation had been poor, certainly, but he could have at least pretended to acknowledge it. Still, I was beginning to grow accustomed to the subtle cruelty that seemed to accompany each word out of Simon's mouth. He's gotten quite mean. Again, he's kind of bitter, isn't he? Alright, I'm going back to my room then. I turned and began to walk away. Son's unpleasantness had started after he'd been injured during his trip to Osaka. He spent most of his time locked in his room now, and he was quick to take out his frustration on other people. I knew the loss of his arm had hurt him, probably more than I could understand, but I wished that he could go back to being the warm, kind man he had been when I had met him. I turned around to see him still standing there, watching, slowly blinking as he watches you walk away. It's kind of creepy. It's really hot out today. You should try and stay out of the sun, and please take care of yourself. I gave him a nervous little laugh, and he responded with a chuckle of his own. His smile didn't look forced.
ありがとうございます。君も体調には気をつけてくださいね。
Thank you. Take care of yourself as well. Okay. Somewhere in there, the sun and I first met was still there. My spirits lifted. I ran back to my room.